Hey, everybody, welcome back. I'm Samantha, sitting in a really hot room with another At First Glance episode. Welcome back. If you're watching, hey. If you're listening, hey. At today's chat, I am talking about an Ethan Allen three-drawer dresser. But yeah, it's a lovely one, and I can't wait to share. So let's get into the episode. Every episode is the same, where I talk about how I acquire the piece, how I design it, how I complete it with our methods, which the design and methods are interchangeable. I pause because they're interchangeable sometimes. Sometimes I need to work on it first before I design it. And then finally, I always end with lessons to expand my knowledge on what I'm doing, or life lessons that I needed to learn based on a task, based on a situation, whatever. It's a lesson. It's something I learned. So it's always going to be important. But how I acquire the piece, let's go right into it. And I'll probably put it on the screen to my left, your right. So I acquired the piece from a cute little thrift store in Fort Walton Beach. I live in Florida. And it's called Repeat Street Thrift Store. Cute little thrift store. What's interesting is this was our last stop. And I'll talk about that later in the lessons, but this was our last stop, and this was the last thing that I found. So never give up hope when you're thrifting, because you just never know what you'll find. But at first glance, when I walk in the store, it's very, very clean. It's small. And I was like, I was underwhelmed at first. And there was a really, really nice sales associate. She came up to me and she said, "Hey, what are you looking for today?" And I usually don't try to bite into those sales pitches. I'm like, "Oh, I'm just looking," because I really am. I mean, you never know what I'll find. So I said, "No, I'm just looking." She said, "Okay, well, let me know." And, because I know where everything is. I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I proceed. So after looking around a little bit, I tell my partner, I'm like, I don't really see anything. And she says, "I saw that y'all look." She comes back like, "Whoa, where did this lady come from?" And she's like, "Hey, I saw that you're looking for furniture. There are more pieces in the warehouse in the back." And I said, "Oh, why didn't you tell me that at first?" So I go to the back, and it was like a gold mine of furniture. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, this is where I want to be." And that's where I found it. So, thrift store, cute store, I will be back. Now let's move on to the design, which I'm going to actually jump into the methods first, because I could not think about designing this piece until it was clean. It was so gross. So gross. So the design, I knew either that evening, I think it was that evening that I cleaned it, or the next day, that it had to be cleaned before I brought it inside. That's the first thing I did. I went outside with my vinegar, dish soap, water solution, and I cleaned the heck out of this thing in a bucket of water. And that's really all you need to cut years of dirt and grime and dust and mud and fingerprints and gum and sticky sticks and all kinds of stuff. It took me 3 washes to get this thing semi clean. There were years of dirt. Oh, it was so gross. So yeah, the cleaning took hours, and I wanted it to dry out adequately before I started working on it, because I knew I was going to engrave it. Really, because this piece is from 1960. I didn't even like introduce it. It's a 1960 Ethan Allen piece that is, old, looks old, and, could do some, have a makeover, a little bit, something. But what I noticed, the first thing that I noticed, is all the dents and all the scratches and all the dings from, years of use. That's all I could see. And I just could not imagine myself filling every single hole. Like, no, no. I'd rather just cut into the wood than fill every single hole. Like, what is the point in filling the hole when that is a part of the character of the piece instead of enhancing it with engraving. So that's what I did. This was probably the dirtiest piece I've ever had. But I only got it for $35, so I can't be mad at it. And then after cleaning it and really taking a good look at it, taking the hardware off, it's really a piece from the 1960s. It's solid pine throughout, quirky bat looking hardware. um, there's like a toe kick, and then the sides of the dresser are 2 inches longer than the actual dresser itself. I mean, it was just quirky. It was just different. And I mean, it was the 1960s, so I mean, back then it was probably cool, but now it could use a makeover. When I finish cleaning and inspecting it, I usually spend a good amount of time just staring at it, staring and staring, because I need to be inspired to know how I'm going to even design it. But then I also thought about on my thrifting trip, I acquired a bamboo window shade. And I had already used the bamboo window shade in another project, the Little Bohemian desk, which I kind of sad that I don't have anymore, but it was a big piece and it would have taken up a lot of real estate. But I wanted to use it again because, again, this dresser is old. It's got a lot of dents, it's got a lot of dings, it's got a lot of bruises. And, why not just cover it? Yeah, you can fill each hole, or you can cover it with a really cool embellishment and paint it a really beautiful color, which the paint, I am in loving Fusion Mineral Paint, loving the finish, loving the range of colors, loving the fact that I found a seller who ships in 2 days. I mean, it's just a win-win. So I'm going to continue to use Fusion to paint, and hopefully one day, you know, some friends or family will gift me some Fusion Mineral Paint. I don't know. I love it. It's great. I highly recommend it for painting furniture. And also, I um I kind of have a problem. Well, maybe not a problem, but just an obsession with the color green. As you can see, I'm wearing it now. I gravitate towards anything green, all shades of green. And, obviously, I'm a Virgo, an earth sign, so I love being outside. I love nature. I love all the shades of green. So I felt like was going to be like my year of green, where I use a shade of green in some way on every single piece of furniture, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is a year of green of some shade. I can't remember, olive green, something, but nonetheless, green was going to be the color of this dresser. So I always go to the Fusion website because I love looking at their project pieces. I love seeing the painted projects. That gives you a better idea how the paint's going to look on your piece. Swatches are cool, but I need real life to know if this is going to work for me. And emerald, no, and manor green was the color that I went with. It was regal, but still like dark and deep and moody. and and it just had this brightness to it, where it didn't look like just a regular neutral, color. And it looked like the beautiful trees that I see when I walk outside my back door. So that's always a win-win. Manor green, I saw it, ordered it, bam, yes. And this was actually just like a random order. I just randomly ordered some paint from Fusion, and Manor green happened to be one of them. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, I think we're going to make this little Ethan Allen dresser as fancy as its name is, with a Manor green paint. Why not? At this point, I have a better idea of how it's going to finish. I'm going to refinish it. So I really do just go ahead and proceed with the methods and let the design kind of develop as I'm working on it. I'm that type of designer where I like things to evolve. I don't necessarily get stuck on one idea. I mean, there are times when I do, but for the most part, especially for thrift store finds or street finds, I I just let it flow, you know? What did I do when I first started working on it? Oh my gosh. Okay, so I also have a new obsession with my carbide scraper that I got on an Amazon Prime Day deal that is the most amazing paint and stain stripper. And I'm like slamming my chair because it's that important that you don't have to use chemicals. I cannot express how much I hate stripping furniture with chemical gels. The smell, the trash, the waste. It's just gross. So I acquired this carbide scraper from Amazon that I'm in love with, and I use it all the time. I even bought a sharpening tool to sharpen it because I've used it that much. And yeah, I wanted to expose some aspects of the wood of this piece. So paint the body, scrape the top, and refinish the top. I wasn't going to paint the top because I want to show some of the age. I want to show all the dents. I want to show the black marks. But I like a chemical-free approach. And a non-toxic approach when it comes to dealing with refinishing furniture. I want it to be safe for people that don't want to use all those chemicals to do refinishing. Even though yes, it does have a major effect on how it's refinished, absolutely. But sometimes I just want to let things be what they are and enhance the things that I like and hide the things that I don't like. But the top, it's old, it's pine, it's aged. Let that shine. And I loved how it turned out. Absolutely loved how it turned out. I mean, I'm already going to the results because I've seen the result. You haven't yet. But the scraper, yes, let me go back. See? The scraper. I think I took a time lapse of me scraping the top off. If not, I'm going to insert some clips of me using the scraper on other projects because it's just that awesome. So I'm going to stop talking about the scraper and just tell you I uncovered all the goodness of the top with this beautiful scraper, then sanded the entire piece, starting with 80, especially for the top, to get all that finish off, then to 120, and finally finished with 220. It was baby bottom smooth. So smooth when I finished. I have to show you some clips. Also, y'all, I am so terrible, which is why this is a podcast and not a vlog. I am absolutely terrible at picking my camera up and recording. Like, terrible at it. So I have a lot of photos, but not a lot of video of my process. I'm getting better. I think once I have a camera I can use on the regular, then it won't be so daunting. But now it's like the setup and this, oh no. On top of my work process already, it's like, I'm not adding another element. So for right now, we just got a couple video clips and some photos, and we'll just call it a day for now. But it will evolve, I promise. I promise. At this point, the paint hadn't come in yet, so I have to proceed with doing the top. And I didn't want to do I get excited about it because it turned out so good. I didn't want to do the golden oak or dark Kona like I have been using, even though I love both stains. Love, love, love. Of course, I just want to do something different. So I go to Hose, Home Depot and Lowe's. Yikes. Maybe that's what I'll call it. I went to the Hose, Home Depot and Lowe's and never usually have any luck there. I usually always end up in Walmart. Walmart is shockingly a great place to find materials for like staining and refinishing and like tools and stuff. Low key, like better than Hose. I'm just saying. But I found dark walnut there in Varathane, just a small because and I'm only doing the top, so I didn't need a big container of it just to do a top pine top. But I wanted something in between golden oak and Kona, and I felt like dark walnut was like the perfect blend between the two. It's got a little bit of golden, but a little bit of the darkness. So hopefully it'll bring out the golden darkness in the pine, you know? Dark walnut for the stain. I applied, I think, 4 coats after I wood conditioned. But It's a little streaky for my taste. I'd like it to be a little smoother. But again, it's probably my application and I'll work on that. After applying those three coats, I loved it. And then at this point, I got the paint in from Manor Green. Or excuse me, I got the paint in from Fusion, or a seller of Fusion, and went ahead and started painting the window shades. I'm like, I need to go ahead and get started because this was going to need multiple layers because they're bright, bright white. And I'm trying to go really dark green. So I think I did like three coats on the window shades on one side, and then on the back side I did one or two coats, I think. I can't remember. But the window shades, they just add this little bit of texture to it without making it look like an old dresser, you know? And I love that all of the pieces that I do are something that you want to touch. I want things to be palpable. I want people to ask, what is this? How did you make it? Even though I did just like kind of glue it onto the sides, I think it enhanced it because it would have just shown off all the dents and bruises and dings. So it's a matter of opinion. I like it, but some people may not. I had on my task list drawer fronts. Engrave, not engrave. Paint, stain. I had no idea what I was going to do with these drawer fronts because they were three different design, three completely different drawers, you know, like one had two separations, another one had one, another one didn't have any. So it was like, this is all on the same dresser. But this was the style of how dresses were made in this time around 60s and 70s. And I'm starting to see that from other dressers that I see to purchase. I'm like, what is with this 310? I don't get it. My initial idea was to cover that and make it all look uniform. So it's almost basically like a window shade dresser through and through. The body, just not the top, and then the drawer fronts. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I go through the whole process of doing it. I use another mistake. I use a Gorilla Glue construction adhesive in the color white. And I glue on these window shades onto the drawer fronts. I'm like, you know what? This is just, this is what it's going to be. I let it dry a couple hours and I'm just staring at it and staring at it. I don't like it. I don't like it. And immediately rip it off. It looked bulky. It looked like something was glued on the drawer fronts. And as soon as I pulled it off, what do you see? White construction glue. Bright white. And I just hang my head like, oh, this is going to be terrible to get off. It was. It was terrible to get off. Using a scraper, Goo Gone, steel wool. But I mean, I got it off. And now the drawer fronts are tacky. They're sticky. And then I had the wonderful idea to engrave. Sometimes these projects takes me through a lot physically, mentally, and yeah, sometimes I'm really burnt out after completing it within a week or two. So it's like reflecting back on them sometimes I'm like, oh man, that was a bad mistake. That was not good. That was not good. And that white construction adhesive was a bad idea. So I did go back to the store and get E6000 clear transparent glue to paint to glue everything else back on because I wasn't going to make that same mistake again. But at this point I say I got to do something to the drawer fronts. I can't just paint them. It'll just look weird. So I decided to engrave them. And then when you go to decide to engraving, what pattern do I want to do? There's just so many decisions to make, and I don't want to spend a lot of time making these decisions. So I just, yeah, I don't like to make a lot of decisions. I'll just say that. So, in keeping with the pattern of the window shade, I thought, let's keep it simple, like we did with the last one. Keep everything as simple as possible and just do straight lines. I'm really great at straight lines. I have a great system, a great setup, I know how to do straight lines. Easy peasy. But then I think, well, what distance do I want them? Because the window shades, there's lines like what, side by side. They're all throughout. And I think having a wider width between the lines was not going to work. So I knew maybe a half inch would work or maybe 3/4 inch. Initially, I started with the 1 inch apart. 1 inch apart, I'm comfortable with. I know how to do. Then when I went to testing, I tested a few that at a half inch apart. And I gotta say, I really, really, really love the half inch apart. Loved. However, straight lines are easy, yes, yes. But it would have doubled the time of engraving. And right now I don't have an air conditioned space to engrave in. It's kind of tight quarters and it's just not ideal because it's really hot. It's just really hot. So I was thinking, I'm like, do, is this something we want to do? When I know that it's going to make a bigger impact, I move forward with something, but I wasn't sure it was going to do that. And I'm like, do I really want to put my body through this for something that I'm not so sure about? No. The answer was quickly no. I went ahead forward with 1 inch engraving. I said no. And the engraving, it does take me some time. It took me 2 days to do 3 drawers, and each time I engrave for a good hour and a half to maybe 2.5 hours at a time. So that's a lot on my body. 2.5 hours of like heat. I'm constantly having to keep my arm and my hand in a stationary, tight space, tight spot. I'm sitting on a bar stool with no padding. So it, like I said, the conditions are not ideal. They're not ideal. But I love it. I love doing it. And oddly, this particular project, maybe not oddly, but this project, the Wiz soundtrack really got me through. It really did. I love The Wiz, the movie from 1978 with Diana Ross. And yeah, I just love the soundtrack. It always is a good vibe. I love the music. I love all the artists, Michael Jackson. And one song in particular really stood out for this project, and it's the Emerald City sequence. You know, the I want to be seen green. That one. Yes. It just, yeah, yeah. So after engraving, I painted everything. And then I got to the point where I'm like, do I put a glossy, semi-gloss top coat on or a satin top coat on? And I said, you know what? Semi-gloss on the drawer fronts, satin on the top. And I mean, it's okay. It's not my favorite piece. And I maybe it's because of the issues that I had, which were pretty much self driven, or I created them. Um I think I just didn't. I don't know. 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 Oh, but the hardware. Rewind. So after painting it and adding the top coat, that's when I decide what hardware I want to get. Because it's really, really hard to decide what hardware you want to use if I don't already have any on hand before I finish it. So I see this beautiful green dresser with the window shades on the side and the gorgeous pine top. And I needed something that wasn't a bright brass, but a little subdued, but not too dark because the dress is already dark. So I went with antique brass. First, I found the feet on Amazon. And then I found the drawer knobs and oh no, the drawer knobs I actually already had. It's the drawer pulls are what I ordered on Amazon. And all three of the hardware, the feet, the drawer pulls, and the drawer handles, they were all like different colors. So I applied this bare gold spray paint to all three to kind of tie the color together because they were just all just a little bit off. But you know that feeling when you get a package in the mail and it's the hardware package, and you're like, oh my god, this is all I need to completely finish this piece, y'all. That's exactly. I'm like, oh my god, hardware is here. Hurry up and put this on. And I think it really brought everything together. I love it because it's mine. I created it and it's beautiful. It's just not my favorite. I'll say that. I'll say that. But that's how I refinished the piece. This is how it looks. I want to find some different ways of styling, like finding different places in the home. But that's really the only place in the house that has good like, flooring. Like photographable flooring, even though it's vinyl. I like how it looks. Again, it's just not my favorite. We'll say that. After refinishing each piece, I usually reflect on some lessons, either some skill that I want to learn, some tools that I know are going to help in future projects, but just something to expand, either a life lesson, a technical lesson, just something. And more often than not, they're life lessons. I don't want to present myself as being like an expert in this. This is kind of like me doing my thing, imperfectly quirky at first glance. And I reflect on life lessons mostly. And the one that really stood out the most was what is in a name? When I get each piece, I always look for a maker's mark. Always. I think that's usually the only way you'll find out if it's valuable or not. And I found obviously the Ethan Allen brand on the front top drawer and did a little research just to see. I don't know much about Ethan Allen. I mean, I know it's a furniture brand, but I don't know the history of it. And this was my opportunity to really dig into the history. Oddly, I didn't really find much. But then again, I wasn't really inspired to find much. So, yeah, it was weird. But I did find somebody who completely refinished it and sold it on Etsy or is selling it on Etsy for $1,500. My mouth dropped because it's the original state with the bat wing, the bat hardware, the 2 inch long sides, the foot kick, all that. And I'm like, hey, Ethan Allen must be pretty popular and valuable, which kind of affected how I priced it, but not $1,500. But it just made me think, what is in a name? And why do we assign so much value to this name? But then I kind of twisted it to my life. And instead of a name, what is in a title? And what is the title that I want to live myself or I want to live my life by? And then I started thinking about the titles that other people start living their lives by: mother, daughter, father, brother, sister, entrepreneur, boss, employee. I mean, whatever title you claim to be, is that how you live your life? And then I thought about, well, what is a title I want to live my life by? And do I find value in it? And I've always been this person that never found value in titles. And there's obviously a history behind that. If you know me, you know. But I just think that to live my life by a title is limiting myself to just that title. While I do think people can outgrow their titles and evolve into something else, to restrict myself to just one is no. I don't want to ever be boxed in into any container of space. I want to be free to be me in whatever capacity I want to be and whoever I want to be. And I know that may sound like a bunch of gibberish, but I don't like saying, "Oh, yes, I'm a girlfriend. I'm a sister. I'm a auntie." Because they don't know Samantha. They know that title. And they know the expectations that go with that title. And my belief is I don't want to limit myself to any expectation because of a title. And therefore, I don't want to limit myself to any type of design when I'm designing these pieces. Because what is in these names? These names are just who created them. Period, point blank. Yes, you can find value in it. I particularly don't. I just see some beautiful wood. But I just don't want to place a value on a name in any way. So that is the first lesson. It's kind of long, but that's the first one. And then the second lesson is always trusting my gut. The day that I found this Ethan Allen dresser, we went, when I say we, I mean my partner and we planned a day of thrifting for furniture only because I want to build my inventory a little bit. I want to be able to go to like trade shows with at least 5 or, to 10 pieces. I don't know where I'm keeping these things, but um, I just want to be able to have pieces on deck that I can continue working on while other pieces are still trying to get sold. So I planned out this day of going to different thrift stores, going towards, going more east. And it was a full day. It was a full day, even though we were in and out. But I didn't find anything until the very last stop. And we stopped at least six stores along the way. And I wasn't loving anything. I'm like, no, no, no. And I don't want to settle. I I feel like whenever I settle, I'm never inspired. And it usually just kind of wastes away or I have to donate it. So trusting my gut and waiting for something that I want to work on gives me more of a, motivation to work on it. Also, it's really just given me a lot more confidence in buying furniture, good quality pieces to resell to other people. I don't want to resell no junk, man. I'm not knocking it, but I'm just not into redoing engineered wood, particle board. Those pieces don't last. Real wood, solid wood, those things last that are veneered or not. But I love the confidence that I'm having in choosing and being selective and waiting and being patient and waiting for the right pieces to come to me, because sometimes that's what they have to do. Even though I did go to it, it came to me. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, thank you. Thank y'all for hanging in there and watching or listening to this At First Glance episode where I talk about, what did I talk about? The 3-drawer dresser from Ethan Allen. Oh my God, I've been talking too much. Okay, it's time for me to go. On the next episode or next chat, I've got so many pieces to talk about. I thought about being selective in the pieces that I talk about because Some of them, like this one, I wasn't really excited to talk about. It's just like, it was okay. But I'm going to talk about all of them. So I'm going to go back even before this Ethan Allen dresser, and I'm going to create podcast episodes and post them here on YouTube and also on Spotify and talk about it, because every project deserves a chat, because every project is a lesson. So I'm going to talk about all of them. I don't know when I'll get to that, but I will. And I will see y'all on the next one. Bye.